Hello. Uh, Good afternoon. We've all been busy the last few days worrying about the storms, and it's been a very serious time for everyone on Facebook and YouTube and the world. In general, I say the world in general, the United States mostly. I doubt that our hurricanes are really all that much on the world news. But I thought that this might be a time when I could break the seriousness and share a story. This is something I wrote last year. I was feeling a bit humorous. I think it's lighthearted enough. I hope you will enjoy it. I would previously a bit embarrassed to maybe share this story, but this is from a series of stories I wrote that concern my days in the United States Army. And this one in particular starts that series off and is the story of my enlistment into Army life. I entered the Army, and I'm going to have to read most of it, but you'll understand. I entered the Army in 1981 while living in Austin, Texas. My fourth semester at UT was not going well. It seems I preferred smoking dope, watching TV, or going to the afternoon doubleheaders at Dishfalk Field. The Horns were great that year. Tony Arnold was pitching as an all-star staff. No, that's digression. One day, at the Highland Mall pet store, Abel Trevino came busting in with the news that President Reagan had been shot. I was a big fan of President Reagan and had recently spent a great deal of time listening to Abel's Navy stories of adventures overseas. And since I was doing extremely poorly in school at that time, calculus and others were really kicking my ass, the decision to join the Army sort of made itself that day in about 5 minutes. A quick trip to the recruiter's office, and I was on my way to the United States Army. I entered in San Antonio. I had a health check and official oath taking, etc. You'll see. A group of us, maybe 12 in number, were led down the hall to a room of chairs lined up against the wall. We were instructed to remain standing, and then instructed to strip down to our shorts. At that moment, a rather uneasy feeling came over me. I had taken up a habit in college of going commando, what we called commando, which was basically, and I wasn't wearing any shorts, let's face it. So I removed my shoes and shirt and placed them carefully in the chair opposite to me, and a rather stern-looking woman in a nurse's uniform quickly questioned my need for modesty. Got a problem, young man? Well, no, not really, but I'm not actually wearing anything underneath. You ain't the first. Get 'em off. There seemed little choice, so I proceeded to remove my pants, fold them carefully, deliberately place them in the chair. Apparently the chairs were there for our clothing, only since we remained standing in the line. A couple of fellows had boxer shorts, and most of them stood rather nervously in their briefs, and I, near the end, stood butt naked with two hands cupping steadily shrinking penis and testicles. Just about that time, I felt a little bit relaxed, and the moment might pass without further incident or insult. A young corporal stepped in, and he barked our first command. Right face! March! Panic starts to set in. We marched out into the hall. As I passed the corporal, I thought he was going to bust out in a full belly laugh. But he did manage to hang on. First left past the nurse's station to the examination room. Now, the situation had just gone from bad to extremely worse, as I realized we were now marching directly between the open waiting area and the nurse's station. It is unclear to me at this time if I had ever known my own genitals could shrink down to such a minuscule stature. However, there was one consolation to that state of affairs. I no longer required two hands to keep everything hidden. Suffering various reactions that included shock, laughter, embarrassment, and one nurse who just slowly shook her head, I ran the gauntlet and made the safety of examination room 2. Again, we stood in line. It took a couple of minutes, but my testicles did start to fall back out a little bit, and I could feel a little bit of warmth start to creep back into my groin area. But then the doctor arrived. He stared at my end, so I was second in line. I was amazed at his efficiency. First, the squeezing of the scrotum for hernia, then bend on over and check things out at the hemorrhoid side. All good. He stood back up one step, looked me right in the eye with a slight smile and says, I guess you'll remember the next time your mother talked about always wearing those clean shorts. The rest of the story went as expected. I not only survived the experience, but now embarked on a fine set of adventures as a private first class in the United States Army, which I suppose should be told in further stories.